Good morning. Just trying to adjust this. I think it's right. That's probably okay. So, Monday morning. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Mine was not super eventful. It's pretty hot, so we didn't get anything done. That's how it is. We were looking at the weather forecast for this coming weekend, which looks very good. Um, so, yeah, talked ourselves out of working. It was very hot, so that's okay. We can't work every weekend. Although I gotta say, that's something that I do notice, is that, you know, when you're not working and you're not able to really go and do things too much out of the house, um, you kind of run out of things to do sometimes. So, then you're left with things like cleaning the house and stuff like that I have very little interest in. So I think I need to pick up another hobby or something. We'll see. Actually, I do have a bunch of hobbies, and I don't know. I haven't gotten back to them in a while, but I should. It's hard when we have these stretches of the hot weather where even at night, going out in the evening, I used to garden a lot at like 6 o'clock at night, 7, 8. Um, Hi Dora, hi Sue, and hi Barb. But now it's even way too hot. Then it's very unpleasant. So um, I need a break in the weather. I could do with that. I don't mind staying in the hot part of the day, but I want to be outside some of the day. So I'm waiting for the weather to change a little, and I think it will. I have faith. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Dave said, my husband said, yeah, in October it'll change. But I think maybe before then. I hope before then. So I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you found some things to do that were enjoyable. Now getting back to some yoga. Let's see. What should we talk about today? I don't know. I feel unprepared today. That's all right. So maybe we'll talk. So Saturday we talked about this idea of devotion to a greater, um, something greater than ourselves, and maybe we'll talk a little more about that. Because I think, again, like we make the mistake where we think that um, that's the same as like living through other people, right? That idea. So we're just, you know, taking that idea and moving it onto, the uh, the greater self or the greater, uh, the universe or God or whatever you want to think of as the higher power. Um, but that would imply that the higher power is has an agenda that's somehow different from your own agenda, right? But if we are all the higher power, if we're all one and the same, that greater self, then how can how can that be different than what's right for you? Right? What's right for you is what's right for everyone. It's what's right for the world. Um, it's not like so when you think about the best way to to think about it, if we're trying to sort of compare it to something, you can think about like a parent with a child, or especially a mother with a child. I think a lot of times dads come a little late to the party on this. Mothers, having grown the child for the most part, um, they're more, they understand, right? Because they've given up a lot of their bodily autonomy pretty early on, right? So changes are happening, things are going on. It's pretty much out of your control. You're just letting it happen, um, participating, but not directing, right? Um, and then, when you're caring for the child, it's the same kind of thing where at sometimes you may feel like you're in control, but you're not really. You might have a say in how things go some of the time, but a lot of the time, you are pretty much gonna be doing what the kid needs you to be doing. Um, so then we have problems with that maybe as we get older. So moms who never move past that are moms who get stuck in that role and they don't know what else to do, right? So frequently, you find moms like this who are kind of adrift when the kids leave home. They don't know what to do with themselves. And they anxiously are waiting for grandkids, right? So they can do something with them, right? And, everyone has feelings like that at times, right? Especially if you enjoyed being a mom, if that was a big, important role for you. So you can see how that, if you enjoyed that, think how much you're going to enjoy being devoted to this greater self, right? It's even more um, rewarding, right? Because it is constant, right? It is eternal. Your that self, the eternal self, is always going to be there. That devotion is never. You never have to stop. You never have to say, "Okay, enough. Now you got to go do your own thing." You can keep that devotion to the higher self forever. Um, and it just gets better. You get better at it. You get better at kind of discerning what the self, where you're going with that, and what your next step should be. Um, and that makes everything better. It makes you better in your relationships with other people. It helps you to find the most sort of appropriate way um, to interact with other people in your life so that you aren't, either indifferent or overbearing. You strike that balance in between where you are helpful, but not smothering, right? Um, but as we know, if you've been in that experience where you've taken care of children, raised children, you know how rewarding that is, right? That feeling of obligation, right? In a way, but it's a very beautiful obligation. It's a responsibility that you've been given, that you work hard to fulfill, and when you do it, it's a great feeling when you do that well. Um, you can have that same feeling through this other path. And again, it's unlike raising a child, there's no aggravation involved. I mean, it's not always easy, and you won't always maybe make the right choice. Um, there are sometimes that when we get sort of tuned into this idea of devotion to the higher self, we understand that there are things that we need to be doing that we may not really want to do. Um, we may want to hold on to some anger and resentment towards certain people, or we may dislike certain types of people, or people that think this certain thing that you don't agree with. Um, you may hold, heavy thoughts about them. But when we have this deep devotion to the self, you don't get to do that. That's not okay, right? Um, you can understand why you might feel that way. You can understand that those people may be wrong. You don't have to approve of them or agree with them, but we understand that they are, and that they also have their place in the world. They have their role to play, and they may not understand what you understand, but they are to be loved and to be given compassion and understanding as much as we can, um, because they are part of the self. They may be a part of the self we don't like very much, that we wish we could change, that we wish would be different. Um, but we can't deny that they're there, and we can't hate them, because that would be hating ourselves, right? Um, so, what do we do? What do we do about people that are going down the wrong path, that are doing things that we don't like, that we think are wrong? Um, Yoga, for the most part, we don't speak a lot about um, direct action, because we are all on our own paths, and to take to take that autonomy from someone is to overstep, right? Assuming that this person is a grown adult with their own uh, sound mind, um, there isn't a lot you can do. You can be an example. You can offer a hand to someone who might need help. You can let people know that your door is open. Um, you don't maybe you don't agree with what they're doing. You don't think they're going down the right path, but lecturing them, and there's a whole yoga sutra about this, that speaking to someone who is in the grips of that, they're not going to hear you. They're going to turn against you. They're going to be angry with you. Um, 90% of the time, I would say 99% of the time, maybe. Um, so be prepared that could be the response if you decide to confront someone about something like that. Um, Better that you just offer your example. Um, I had a meditation class that I'm taking where the teacher called it show them your tomato, which I think is a great example for this time of year because tomatoes are so beautiful. But what she meant was um, show them what you mean, right? When you are living in alignment with the self and with what the universe is telling you to do, you are going to be the result, right? You're going to have a more peaceful mind, peaceful life. You're going to be happier. Things are just going to go better for you. So that's your tomato, and it's going to be really ripe and shiny and beautiful. Whereas maybe this other person's tomato is like got worms in it and it's green, maybe. I don't know. It's been, out of the sun. It looks just terrible, right? So show the world your tomato. Be a living example of what you're you're following, um, and let people know that you're there. If they want to know more, you can tell them. If they want to change their ways, um, they also could have a great looking tomato. It's not. There's no huge gardening secret. There's just a few tips that you can follow to get that great tomato. So yeah, it's hard, right? It would be nice if we could just write people off. um, whole groups of people that we think are dumb or whatever. Like they're just, we don't even understand them. We don't even want to understand them. And I would say you don't even have to understand them, but you have to accept that they are, and that there will always be people who you don't get. That their experiences, their life experiences, what they've gone through, um, what they've seen, how they believe it may make a lot of sense if you were them, if you've gone through what they went through. Um, so it can be understandable. I mean, you could potentially understand why they are how they are, um, and have compassion for them because they are struggling. Um, they are when you see someone going the opposite direction against love, against union, against all these things we speak about in yoga, you know what the result is going to be for them. It's going to be terrible. They're going to have a very unhappy life and struggle, and um, have compassion for that. Hope and pray for them that they may see some change, that they may be able to see beyond what their little box that they're stuck in. Um, and, throw them a line if it looks like it might help. But, you know, be prepared to have that thrown back at you. It could happen that way. All right. So if that is your path, um, and there are some people that, that is their path, is to encounter people like this and to try to work through this. You may have people like this in your family that you're dealing with. Take refuge in the self, in that greater um, part, and draw your strength from there. It's not easy to deal with these situations. It's not easy to deal with them um, when with just casual acquaintances. But if it's within your family, it's very hard indeed. So uh, take some strength. Know that you are working with the best intention, and don't be too tied into the outcome. Right? We talk about this in yoga a lot. The action and the intention is what matters. The outcome is beyond all of our controls. We'll just see what happens. All right. So let's do some asana. Um, and again, I think we did this on Saturday too. If you have someone in your life that's giving you trouble, um, sending out prayer to them, sending out good intention, holding them in your thoughts as you practice, can be a really helpful and kind of cathartic experience. Um, it's amazing what the power of intention and vibration and just the energy that you put into certain things. And sometimes when you have someone who's very difficult, you realize that all your intention and all of your intention and energy has been going into angry thoughts and angry concerns. Um, Try doing something different. Try positive. Try enthusiastic. Um, Try not to um, get stuck on the anger. Move on to the next thing, and see if that doesn't lighten that experience with the person. Um, it's not easy. None of it is easy. But we're here to learn and to get better as we go. So let's practice. Sitting up tall. Deep breath in Chin down toward the chest. Let's just stay here and breathe. And lifting up. Keep lifting the chin. Head drops back. Head to center. Take a breath in and then moving over to the right. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Back up to center. Moving to the left. And back to center. Lean forward. And then we're moving around. One way and the other. Back up to seat. Arms wide. Take a deep breath. Exhale, hands together. Inhale wide. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Interlace the fingers. Lift the arms, gaze up. And then arms down by your side. Inhale, lift. And lower. Lift. And lower. Once more, lifting up. And then bring the right arm down. Reach across with the left. Switch sides. And back up. Let's bring goalpost arms up. Palms pressing. Take deep breath. And then we're moving to the right, turning from the shoulders. Back to center. Deep breath. Moving left. Back to center. Bring the arms down. Let's interlace the fingers behind the back. Set the hands down, gaze up. And then folding forward. Lift the arms a little. And come on back up. Let's extend the legs straight out. And we're going to bring the hands by your side. So the palms are pressing down. We're just going to flex the feet. So point and flex. And then we're going to do some like spirals with the feet. So I can't really see, but I think you know what I'm doing, right? It doesn't matter which way you go to start. We're just making some big circles. And then reversing. So it may be hard. I'm going the opposite way with each foot because that's, I don't know, that works for me. But you might do the same, go the same way. If that is what works for you. Everybody's brain is different with that. You don't want to get confused and be working one differently than the other. And then let's point and flex again. Bend the right knee. So we're going to bring the hands down by the shin and just hug that knee in as close as you can. Your foot is resting on the mat. Sitting up nice and tall so you can pull the shoulders back. Got a nice tall spine. And then we're going to lower the knee down. So you've got the foot. Left leg is straight ahead. This foot is right up close to the thigh. If you have more flexibility, you might bring it up on top of the thigh. You want to keep it above the knee, right? And not resting right on the knee either, right? We don't want that kind of backwards pressure on the knee joint. So either above, or if this is too much, bring that foot in right by the thigh. I'm going to sit up tall here. Deep breath, and then leaning forward, reaching down towards the foot. So if you've got the foot up on top of the thigh, you're really not going to be able to fold as much because you can see how just the pressure of the leg is flattening the knee out. And when that happens, the hamstring is shorter, right? So we aren't going to fold as much. That's okay. You're going to feel that through this joint anyway. So we're doing a couple of things. We're not really worried about the hamstring here too much. So this pose and the other one, the other side, is a great pose if you're trying to work on lotus. Right? So I really talked about lotus. Lotus is kind of a classic yoga position, lotus seat. And it's if you have issues with your knees, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you work on that. But sometimes you can if it's not hurting your knees and you're good. I tend to have some knee issues, so I'm always careful with that. I don't do lotus too much, but I do work on the poses for lotus because they're very helpful with the hips and everything. So lotus is when, I'm sure you've seen it, but you have this foot up on your thigh and the other foot up on your thigh, right? It's a classic kind of meditation pose. And you see, if you were going to see what would be a yogi would maybe be sitting in lotus pose. But it's certainly not required by any stretch of the imagination. But it's fun if you have that kind of flexibility through the hips and the knees. It's fun to give it a shot. And this is good, these are prep poses. So there are a lot of poses that we do. We're just working on the other side now. So left knee is bent, sole of the foot to the mat. We're hugging it in tight, pulling the shoulders back. Every pose is preparation for something. Okay? We are working to get more flexibility somewhere to move into either this pose deeper or preparation for another pose down the line. And they fit together in odd ways. So sometimes working on an unrelated pose that doesn't really seem like it would fit with the other pose, actually gives you the ability to find that other pose down the line. And then we're going to do the same here. So whatever you did on the other side, either this foot right next to the thigh or up on thigh, deep breath, and then folding forward. And if we talk about poses like lotus pose, so I'm not going to show you that here because I'm not sure my knee is up to that today. But if you hear me talk about a pose, you want to look at your lotus pose, Google it, like look it up online. You can see lots of pictures of people in lotus. You can probably find some tutorials on how to get there, how to work on that. Because this is kind of a general class for everybody, I'm not going to get too deeply into that kind of stuff. But there are lots of people out there who have lots of information. So you can see what you can find out there. It is a great time for information on everything, but yoga in particular, right? Because, again, there's only so much you can read. There's lots of books. There have always been books about yoga, but knowing how to get into a pose and how to get prepared for a pose, it's hard to learn that from a book, right? So videos are very, very useful in that. But that being said, don't get discouraged because there are a lot of crazy videos out there, people doing amazing things. Remember that many of these folks have had years and years of not just yoga training, but I find a lot of these, kind of Instagram yogis and things were gymnasts in their in their very young life, and they've kind of made that bridge from gymnastics to yoga. So they've done things to their body from early on that most of us never have. So don't get discouraged and feel like, oh my God, why can't I get there? Well, you can't get there because you haven't been doing these things to your body since you were like 5 or 6. That's why. So it's great information, it's great help, but please don't allow it to discourage you in any way. You are right where you should be for your body, for your level of fitness, the time that you've been doing yoga. That is exactly where you should be. Deep breath, and then leaning forward. Maybe press down on the knees a little if you want to. You could do it with your hands too, but be careful. We're not really pushing hard. We're just gently kind of moving them down if there is a little space to move them. And breathe. So we're doing a little sort of yin practice today. Yin yoga typically comes under, from like the hips below. So you're working on the hip area, the legs, all that, those attachments and things. And the thing about yin yoga is that we're doing it relatively cold. Like we don't do the warm-ups beforehand, sun salutations and whatnot, because we're trying to get deeper in, beyond kind of just the muscle stretch into some of the fascia and the attachments. And sometimes those are the things that are kind of holding us back in certain poses. And when our muscles are real warmed up, then the muscles are just stretching and they're doing all of the work. And the fascia is just kind of hanging out. So we're gently trying to kind of encourage some movement through those deeper attachments. But again, we're just going at a snail's pace here. And see, we've been holding this for a little bit. Maybe you can go a little bit deeper. Maybe you've got that ability now. Come on back up. Let's bring the legs wide. Sitting up tall, deep breath, and then we're leaning forward. Bring the hands down onto the feet or walk them out in front. Whatever you like. And hold. So some of these poses, it's hard to hold and to stay relatively still. So if you need to adjust or move around, that's fine. But for the most part, we're trying to just stay in the pose. And it can be challenging, right? Moving from pose to pose quickly is usually most people's preference, right? They don't want to stay with the pose. It's the same thing as, let's say, meditation, right? Sitting and sitting and sitting is hard, right? We want to move, we want to get on to the next thing. So we spend most of our life doing that. It's good to spend 5 minutes or more in something different. But we aren't going to spend 5 minutes in the pose. So I have been in yin classes where we have held the pose for 5 minutes. It's hard, but it's kind of an amazing feeling, right? Come on back up. To know that you can do that, right? That you could hold that pose for 5 minutes if you wanted to. Doesn't mean you want to, doesn't mean you're going to do it every day, but it's that same power that we talk about when we give things up. Right? Let's bring the feet together. We've spoken about that too, that idea of giving up something. Inhale, arms overhead, fold forward. There is a strength in that, knowing what you can do without. Knowing that we aren't dependent on something or someone or things being a certain way. And come on back up. Let's flex the feet again. Okay. Bending the knees, we're on the mat. I'm getting ready to lower down. So tuck the chin and lower, or you could rock back. Take a moment or two to get comfortable here. And then we're going to bend, have both knees bent, soles of the feet to the mat. We are bending the right knee, bringing the right ankle on top of the left knee. Draw that in, that leg, left leg close to the body, if possible. If not, then we're just pressing. We'll keep the foot on the mat. Press that knee away from the body as much as you can. You'll feel it's the same thing, right? We're doing the same thing here. And then set the foot down. We're going to leave that right ankle on top of the knee. Goalpost arms or arms out to a T. Take a breath. And then lowering that left knee over to the side. Right foot comes down along with it for a twist. Breathe. Come on back up. Switch sides. And then the same, whatever you did on the other side, either, keeping the foot on the mat or drawing the right thigh in. Breathe. And then set the foot down. We got the same thing here, except moving the right knee down for your twist. Breathe. Relax. So when we hold these poses longer, we're also kind of forced to confront how are we holding the pose, right? Are we in a position that we can stay in, or are we trying to do something too much? Right? If we're only holding the pose for a breath or two, you can overdo it. You can push the edge, go a little bit further. when you know you're going to have to stay here for a little bit, we have to be more careful with our alignment, with our positioning. Is this sustainable? Can we stay here for a little bit? Right? So if you feel like you've gone too far with something, come back. Don't feel like you have to stay there. And then back to center. Let's extend both legs long. Let's take a few breaths here. Relax. Let's bring the arms up over the head. Maybe stretch a little. You could interlace the fingers, flip the palms. And let's do 5-pointed star. So we've got the arms out to a T. Bring the legs a little wider on the mat. Relax, maybe have the palms facing up toward the ceiling. And bringing everything back close to the body. We're going to bend the knees, getting ready for bridge. So we're going to hold this bridge for a bit longer than we normally do. If you find like it's too much and you want to set down, feel free. You don't have to hold it as long. You could set down for a minute and then come back up. It's entirely up to you what you want to do with this. So we've got heels back, close to the body, hands by your side. And then we're pressing down with the feet, the hands. You might interlace the fingers underneath if you want. Breathe. And then lowering down. Bring soles of the feet together, knees apart. Relax and breathe. And then bring the knees together. We'll hug them into the chest. Rock a little. And then happy baby. So maybe taking hands to the instep or the ankles, whatever works for you today. We've got the knees coming back toward the body. Soles of the feet press up toward the sky. And we breathe. And then releasing, extend the legs straight up. When you're ready, lowering down. Resting your body on the mat. Take a few breaths. Just getting comfortable. And moving into Shavasana. So, Shavasana is deep relaxation. There's nothing else we are doing here. We can focus on the breath if that helps kind of still the mind, but we don't need to really direct the breath. We can just let the breath be natural. The body will breathe on its own. We don't need to do anything. Just let it do its thing, right? Like many things in life, getting out of the way, right? Getting out of our heads and our ideas of what things should be often results in much better outcome. We sometimes make things much more complicated than they need to be. So when you're ready, beginning to kind of get yourself moving again. Fingers and toes, hands and feet. Stretching if you want, and then making your way up to a seat. We'll bring hands together, deep breath in and out. Thank you for coming this morning to practice yoga, to share with us. I hope you have a really good day. Namaste. Thank you. Good class. All right, and we're going to move into some meditation. So if you've got a cushion or something to sit on, I'm going to sit on my cushion here. All right, so we're going to be breathing, relaxing, sitting up nice and tall, shoulders right over the hips. I am going to start the timer, and when I do, there'll be one bell to start and then 3 bells to end. So you'll know when it's over. I realize I probably didn't say that before, so I don't know if any people were confused or if you all understood what was going on. So that's fine. All right, so we're breathing. Close your eyes, relax. Hands can be, in your lap. You could bring them onto your legs. There are some like meditation what they call mudras, these things you do with your hands. This is a great one. You don't need to do any of that, but we can talk more about that another time. But for now, just however you want to feel relaxed. Some people just like to have the palms upward, right? The idea is you're ready to receive, right? You could also hold them upward like this to the center. That's another kind of classic meditation pose. So we're breathing, relaxing, in through the nose, back out through the nose. Slowing down the breath, make sure that things are expanding lower down into the body. We're doing that deep breath. And we're focusing our attention on that space in front of the closed eyes. That blank space where everything passes by, thoughts and words and pictures, impressions, ideas. Just observe them as they move past, keeping our attention on that blank sheet, that blank canvas. Okay, so coming out of that, back here with everybody. How was that? Did that feel fast? To me, that felt really fast, but I'm going to tell you briefly about my meditation experience because I think it's good to sometimes share that. So I could not, since we were talking about the mudras and the hand positions, I couldn't get that out of my head. I just kept thinking about that. And I also kept thinking about how my arms felt uncomfortable. Like I wasn't sure where to put them. So I kept thinking that and then trying to come back and then thinking and then finally a little chunk of a song came into my head. Which, so we talk about this sort of focus or mantra. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be one particular thing or this certain thing that you always think about. It could be anything that's kind of sticking in your head. It's again, it's drawing your focus so you aren't all over the place. You're right here. So the little piece of the song is a phrase that is, "Our love is etched in stone." And so I kept thinking that. And that kind of brought me back to this center. Um, so, yeah, you can have things kind of pop up in meditation that actually help you with your meditation or hinder you, right? Every experience is not going to be great. Sometimes you're going to struggle the whole time. You're going to be like, this is terrible. I can't. And that's okay. We just keep doing. It's just like yoga. Some practices feel better than others, feel more successful than others. That's why we do it as much as we can, because we know not every time is going to be great or perfect or whatever. Some are just going to be eh. So we just keep doing it. And hopefully over time, we'll get more good ones and less meh ones. But even that isn't guaranteed. But we get more practice. We get better at it. It's like riding a bike or anything else. We'll fall down a little bit less, hopefully. All right. So have a great Monday, and I will be back tomorrow. Oh, I'm going to type this. So I was telling you, this is the thing that I use. It's an app for your phone. And I think it's pretty good. They do, when I first started, it was free and everything was free. And now, now there's like a monthly thing if you want to do certain aspects of it, but the timer is still free and there still is some free functionality. So I haven't really found anything better than that. But I don't think it's worth any sort of monthly fee. I mean, that's up to you, but you can check it out. There are also lots of other ones. I just really haven't investigated them too thoroughly. So, okay, well, I'll be back tomorrow.